Hello, here with Ryan Ting from Marvel Legends team at Hasbro. Welcome to London, Ryan. How you doing?
Hi, thanks Jacob, I'm good, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Just caught your panel with a couple of extra SpiderMan reveals, which is very cool. I must admit, I kind of assumed that there was going to be a few more when we saw the first three.
Yeah.
A little bit disappointed though, because Scarlet Spider sold out like that. So
we heard.
First things first, is there going to be a restock on that?
That is a question for the Pulse and the UK marketing teams. I would hope so. We knew Scarlet Spider would be, I think, the most popular in that wave. And yeah, we hope everyone who wants them can get them at some point.
I'm just really frustrated, as I was saying a minute ago. I was live on the Geek Week podcast with Sorrel, and we were digesting all the 1027 reviews. And then I went on after the podcast, and it was sold out. And I was like, but I did get the last stand on, so I'm really pleased with that. We'll talk about that in a minute. First of all, let's talk about Giant Man.
Let's.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Obviously getting it funded. I have to say as well, I mean, I've been quite honest in my videos about the Haslabs. I mean, I was a big fan of the Ghost Rider Haslab. I was really disappointed that it didn't fund. Giant Man, I didn't back just because I didn't have space for him, but it was one of them ones where I was kind of really keen for it to be backed. So there's a lot of fan excitement built around it. I just have to say congratulations as well. I think you really listened to the fans in regards to price point, in regards to articulation, announcing all the tiers and everything like that. With Giant Man now being funded, has that kind of changed the trajectory at all with what you're going to be doing next? Is there going to be another Haslab, or?
I don't know that it changes the direction, because we didn't have a direction for the next one, to be honest. And so we definitely needed to get through Giant Man to see where that netted out. But I just want to thank you for supporting the Haslab, even if you didn't back it. Like, that's okay, and that's the thing where whether it's a space issue or a character relevance or a available funds at the time, we know these aren't necessarily the cheapest kinds of things to do, even though Giant Man was on the more accessible side for Marvel.
100%.
It still represents, multiple purchases of other types of things potentially, and I think that's important just to keep in mind that, like, even if you're not personally backing something, you can be happy and understand that other people might want it instead, right? Yeah. So that's always great to see. But to answer your question, I think it's another proof point in our hypothesis that for Marvel Legends Haslabs, bigger characters are 3 for 3 at this point.
Yep.
But at the same time, there's not that deep of a well of really large characters that we can do. There's a couple others that might make sense. Different versions of a Sentinel, right? Apocalypse. Things like the Celestials kind of are there, but I don't know that they have as much appeal, wide appeal. So we're going to go back to the drawing board, and we already had a couple of meetings actually since the end of the Giant Man campaign, looking at other things. Yep. And we're excited, and it might honestly. And this is just me speaking, right? Personally, I think the Haslab formula to this point, which started with the sail barge and went on, our first project was the Sentinel. Yep. I would like to pursue other type of methods, whether it's something like a No Way Home 3-pack, where maybe it's a special pack, right, of figures for the first time, and it's not necessarily a humongous item, because it's hard to keep topping yourself every year. It's a space issue, like you said. Yep. So we want to listen to the fans, hear the suggestions. If there's other types of items, vehicles, dioramas, or if it's different types of 6-inch scale characters that aren't 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall, I think we're open to that too.
Amazing. The reason I ask is there's a lot of speculation kind of between fans and on comments and that the comments around Giant Man, because it had quite a slow start. It was around the 5,000 backers for quite a long time, and then in that last 24 hours it just skyrocketed. But there was a lot of people kind of going, look, if we back this one, it's going to open up the doors for other articulated figures and stuff like that. I mean, me personally, I've done a couple of videos about this, but something like an Apocalypse with his horseman or something like that would be very cool. Fing Fang Fum, I'm still waiting for Fing Fang Fum.
Do you have the first one?
No, I've got parts of it, and that's why. But I just think, I think the Haslab idea is a fantastic vehicle. Obviously with the Sentinel coming out, that was a big one for us, especially in the UK market, because we didn't initially have it, and then it opened up to the UK market. But I love Haslab time, and it's really great to see these things coming out. And so, just massive congratulations for kind of listening to the fans, like you say, with the articulation, the price points, and excited to see what comes next with Haslab.
Yeah, it's awesome that Pulse is up and running in UK, and
Yes.
so for the first Haslabs, like you said, it was kind of hard. We had to work out special deals
Yes.
like on the side with partner retailers, but now for Europe, for all of Europe, and especially right London here, UK, just go to the Pulse, easy.
And I must admit, for anyone that hasn't seen it in hand at the convention, although I didn't back it, because when you did the Earth's Mightiest, Beyond Earth's Mightiest, I was like, right, I'm going to condense down my classic Avengers kind of display.
Yeah.
And then you announced Shaman, I was like, oh man. And after seeing it in hand, I'm really disappointed I didn't back it.
There's
So
over
it's-
13,000, I think, right? So
that'll
maybe you
be
might
floating
trade
around.
for someone in the future.
I reckon,
Yeah.
but it does. It looks incredible, and the marketing campaign on the lead up with the photographs and people like Steve like post on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just so much fun to watch and be a part of. So yeah, really really cool. What we've seen recently is, obviously back in the day, I've been a long time Marvel Legends collector, and we used to very much just get kind of traditional waves of figures, whereas now we're getting a lot more like anniversary lines, special lines, things like the VHS box sets and stuff like that. Is there anything 2024 related that we kind of like keep our eyes open for? Because comic book wise, we've got quite a lot of anniversaries coming up, things like 50th anniversary of Wolverine, 40th anniversary of the Black Suit Spider-Man. Most ironically, the 50th anniversary of the giant-sized comic books is 2024 when Giant Man shipped. So those kind of things, are they the kind of things that Marvel, Hasbro are looking at kind of expanding into? Or?
Yeah, so it actually started in 2018 when Marvel Studios celebrated their first 10 years, and we did this big fall program. Every year since then, we've done a big fall program, and in most years, it's been supported by Disney and Marvel as well. So it depends on what they have going on. Last year it was SpiderMan 60th, this year was Avengers 60th. Next year there is another anniversary type program, but we haven't announced it yet, but it'll tie into what Marvel is doing. And for the past year or two, we've been doing a smaller spring program. So in 2022, it was the 20th anniversary line for Marvel Legends. So that was the Toad, Hulk, Iron Man's Cap wave, and then for this year we did a little XMen 60th kind of program, and so there will be something for next year's spring as well. I think I got to connect with Dan Yoon on this back home, but I think our plan is to talk a bit more about that in our final fan stream of the year, which we don't have scheduled yet. I think it's going to be sometime in December, but after we get home, get through November, and then through Thanksgiving, and then right before everyone kind of breaks for the holidays, we'd like to do that wrap-up stream of the year, and then that's where we do fun things like our draft picks, our favorites of the year, and so more to come on that. But to your point, yes, there are additional comic anniversaries.
I'm really enjoying the anniversary lines. So obviously we saw your panel today where we saw the 3 extra Spider-Man figures announced. Was there a particular decision process that went into those? Because obviously the Scarlet Spider is an obvious one, we haven't had that for quite some time. But the others are a bit left field with some of the character choices. Was there a decision process or?
So it was set up to be a Spider-Man wave, and on those blister cards, and then it's just a fun brainstorm session working with our internal teams, working with Jesse at Marvel, certain characters. We want to anchor every wave with some characters we think are really going to pop. So you get your Scarlet Spider. For me, I think that Tombstone is really important and all new, very exciting. And then it's just for Spider-Man in particular, because there's been so many versions, so many alternate realities. Things like the video game are bringing greater awareness to certain looks. It's just a fun design challenge to think what makes sense with our existing tooling library and what we can do. So that's where you get things like Spider Shot, like Last Stand, and spiking it with some zany characters. Jack-o'-lantern, that was a very 90s, very retro kind of, but I think that the team is also excited to use that new body for other type of goblin-esque characters, because we sort of went into the details on the butterfly joints and the pinless everything, so it'll be nice to have in the library.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So I'll skip ahead because you mentioned the design side of it. Over the last few years, we've had some real advances in production. So again, having collected Marvel Legends since pretty much the beginning, even using Jack-o'-lantern as an example, the difference in production value of that Jack-o'-lantern to the new one is massive. Recently, we've had things like the photoreal technology coming into play, both on the movie characters and the comic book characters. Obviously, the pinless joints, the double jointed on females, neck joint changes, the soft goods on some of the things. Is there anything design-wise to look out for, or have you kind of exceeded all of those possibilities? Are there more things
Probably. I'm not as much the expert on that because that's all Dwight and our engineers and our sculpting departments. But you listed off a bunch of things, which is an impressive list. But again, we remember that's 5+ years maybe. So it's a gradual rollout. It's not like we have Bucky Cap and then we do Bucky Cap only, and then all of a sudden we do something completely different. Yeah. So I'm sure there will be. It's also a credit to our partners overseas because it's a joint engineering team. We have in Rhode Island in America, and then we have in the Hong Kong office. And so sometimes they bring suggestions to the table, and then Dwight and our engineer review it and take it from there. So without getting into specifics, because I don't probably know, but the teams are always trying to up the game. I think something that we've seen recently is the photoreal deco process being applied to comic characters. A lot of the female characters in recent memory, I think, have come out really good, from Leah to Lady Bullseye to other types of characters we have coming up that haven't been announced yet, but I've seen. It's just that deco on the faces is really impressive nowadays.
100%. So one of the things that a lot of fans say is about repacks and repaints. Obviously, you've continued the Infinity Saga line recently with a whole bunch of some new characters, some repacking characters. For some fans, this is great. For newer fans, they absolutely love it. I have to touch on the Spider-Man 3-pack because a lot of people kind of felt a little bit sour because they'd invested in the Spider-Man 3-pack and then the single cards were released with the unmasked heads. If you were wise enough, you kind of knew they were coming because there was enough hints kind of dropped about it. Is there any kind of process that you kind of put into what characters are going to get remade, or is it just a case of picking your favorite ones? Or
so that's a broader question, and I think those examples you gave, there's different reasons for each of them.
Of course.
So for the Infinity Saga wave, yes, it was a chance for newer collectors who maybe weren't collecting Legends in 2014.
War Machine's a prime example.
So War Machine was a 2016 Civil War exclusive. It was a Target exclusive 2-pack, and then the Black Widow came out in 2014 in that look from the Winter Soldier, and so that's 9 years ago. So if you weren't collecting back then and you didn't want to hunt one down on the secondary market, this is your chance to get those. And we were able to do a few new things as well. I really liked that Bruce Banner, just because there hadn't been a proper Bruce Banner MCU figure since 2015 Age of Ultron, and now to do it with photoreal, completely new head sculpt and everything is great. So that's kind of one reason. To touch on the No Way Home thing, we tried to explain it a little bit during PulseCon, but that was just more of a development timing issue. We wanted to get the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man figures, which have never before been done in modern Legends. We wanted to get them out as quickly as we could, but our development process is so long, we had to wait until the movie actually was released in theaters before we could start even thinking about how to release it. And so when we went into that development process for that 3-pack, all 3 actor likeness unmasked heads were not available to us for various reasons, and it was important to us from a marketing perspective that you either go with all the unmasked heads or none of them, because to do 1 or 2 would just feel strange and awkward. So we wanted to really focus on getting that 3-pack out, those 2 all-new figures into collectors' hands as quickly as possible, and then in the weeks and months that later followed, we got to work on that, what you now see, the individual blister carded wave. And if you'll notice, one of the packaging is different than the others, which kind of, you can infer some things are going on behind the scenes there, but things changed, we worked it out, and we were able to include all 3 unmasked heads there. It was not this planned out strategy in advance to trick people into doing one thing or the other.
Of course.
And it's an accessibility thing too, because that price, that Hasbro Pulse exclusive 3-pack, I forget exactly how much it was, but it was a higher priced 3-pack exclusive to Pulse, which is where our really dedicated collectors shop. But Spider-Man No Way Home was one of the biggest Marvel movies of all time, and for casual fans who maybe don't shop on Pulse as frequently, they might want to pick that up in other places. And so that was important for us to offer them again individually if you need to pick them up, and we did mix it up. We were able to get reference for the final red and blue suit, most recent kind of Spider-Man, whereas it was still the integrated suit in the 3-pack with better deco, with but it kind of
became my main one in my collection.
Changing enough things around, yeah.
Yeah. No, as I said, personally, it didn't bother me too much because I was like, I knew that the unmasked heads were going to come at the time when they did, and to have that as a 3-pack, I was more than happy with that. So talking about Marvel properties, a little bit about the darker side of Marvel. I spoke to Dan last year about things like Werewolf by Night, and we've obviously had a re-release of that this year with in colour on Disney Plus. I said about like a Werewolf by Night Man-Thing 2-pack. Are you guys ever going to kind of touch on the darker side of Marvel at all?
Of MCU specifically, or comic, or
well,
both?
the comic books go all the way into like Dracula and all sorts, don't they? I mean, just that kind of darker side, more the horror kind of collectors that are into the Marvel characters, as well as the MCU.
I think so. It's on the table for us. I haven't watched the color version yet. I did watch the original one when it came out. Yeah, and there's some interesting characters from there. It was fun to see Man-Thing.
Yes.
I was going to say again, but it's not again. It's the first time in the MCU.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's something we'll always look at. We just have to find the right place. Those types of items are probably more geared towards a fan channel type release, just in terms of who would be interested in it. But it's all on the table for us.
Man-Thing's definitely one that a lot of collectors are asking for because we got him as a Build-A-Figure in the Netflix wave, wasn't it? Back
that
in
was
the day.
2017.
2017, wow. And so there's a lot of people that weren't collecting that have obviously seen him on Werewolf by Night. So yeah, if I can put in a request,
okay.
Man-Thing
Noted,
at some point.
Noted.
So talking about XMen 97, we've just had that wave come out as well. Absolutely fantastic wave. Really, really just loved everything about all of them. They've been massively popular. I'm going to assume there are more on the cards because there are more than just 6 characters in the show.
There are.
Is that a line that we're hoping to continue further down the line, or is there stuff?
Yeah, I think the guys have said it in various interviews, but so yes, currently there is plans to do more XMen 97 characters, but just keep in mind that those types of shows where with a very long list of characters, the list is never done basically, right? So I don't know that I can promise we're going to get to every single character that you've seen from the animation, but there will be a couple more.
Because you started it with obviously the VHS cell shaded, that was more geared at the original animation. So between the VHS line and the new 97 line, I suppose there's a couple of channels where we could potentially see.
I've talked about it before, but the VHS line, which I love, and I know that is also incomplete. We know. We started working on that before XMen 97 was even announced. So once XMen 97 started to be in the pipeline, we wanted to shift over and make some products that was going to be supported by entertainment. So that's kind of why it was a bit of a stop and start on the cel-shaded VHS.
That's fine. Spider-Man games. We've just had Spider-Man 2 come out. Is there a reason why we've only had like Miles and Peter in the action for? Because there's so many cool characters in those games.
Yeah.
Between Spider-Man 1, Miles Morales, and now Spider-Man 2. Are we likely to see any more of those kind of Gamerverse characters?
I think we will. It's video games. It's another area of Marvel that is awesome in addition to comics and MCU. I think if you want to go for the first 2 games, Spider-Man and then the Miles Morales game, those were coming out at a time where there was a lot of movies and Disney Plus series in the works, and so we just had to really pick and choose what to focus on.
Okay.
Now with Spider-Man 2, which everyone is loving, the game's getting rave reviews and stuff, that one, I think we could, but it's just a matter of time because video game development timelines are a bit different than toy, and I think we're better served coming out with figures after the game is released, as it's really hard to do it before or when it's during.
So just squash out a rumour, because a lot of people say that you're not touching the games because obviously we had the Avengers game come out and the game itself didn't do too well, and obviously the knock-on effect, the figures weren't overly well received. There's a lot of rumour that you won't touch games because of that wave of figures.
No,
that's not it.
That's not. We actually put out 2 Gamerverse Spider-Man characters this year. Mm-hmm. There was, I believe, the Spider-Man with the white spider.
Yep.
I don't know what the suit names are called, but the basic hero suit. And then we did another version of Miles that was slightly different. I think different translucent pieces. So we're still doing them.
Brilliant.
Those were more updates as opposed to all new figures.
Yep.
But I think we're seeing everyone's really excited in Spider-Man 2 with the symbiote coming into the storyline, and of course Venom, which is a very large figure. We have to figure out a way if we get to a Venom, it would probably be one of those mega deluxe kind of type
yeah.
things. If you think fans would be interested in that.
Yeah, but I think Venom's
Yeah.
a character that will always sell. It's
Yeah.
ignore my t-shirt, but I think it's one that will always sell. Speaking of games though, we had the Last Stand SpiderMan announced, and previously the Mind Spider Mark 1.
Yep.
They're a little bit more geared towards the game design than
Yeah.
they are the comic book design. So again, sort of people saying that they're like an incognito way of getting more Gamerverse characters in. I love them both, to be perfectly fair,
Yeah.
but they are designed a little bit more on the games than the comic books. Is that correct?
Well, I think that I'm not an expert on the game. I think the designs there are pretty faithful to the comics because I've looked up reference for the comics for that Last Stand Spider-Man, for instance. So I think, yeah, they could have gone with either. It just so happened we had a spot in this wave and it made sense to do. So there's a little bit of flexibility there, I think, as long as the costumes are similar. But whether it's comic or from the Spider-Man games, either way that they get out, we hope fans enjoy them.
No, brilliant. So last kind of question. We've just had classic Luke Cage come out. Again, very cool character, very cool figure. Obviously, people are crying out for his companion, should we say, Iron Fist.
Right.
And we haven't had a decent Iron Fist for quite some time now. Are we going to get one?
Safe to assume that will come out eventually, I would say.
Okay, good
Yeah,
stuff.
Heroes for Hire, they go together, and that Power Man Luke Cage was fun to work on, and hopefully fans are enjoying it. And so, yeah, I would say stay tuned.
Good stuff. And the last one, X-Force, Archangel. It's a figure that came out in a box set
yeah.
many years ago, the black and silver look. Came out many years ago, very hard to kind of get on the aftermarket. Are you likely to kind of touch on X-Force again? Because we've had Deadpool, we've had Domino, we had Wolverine. Are they characters that we might go back and revisit?
Potentially. The trick with that, though, is we're so far removed. So Archangel was on the Bucky cap.
Yes.
And as was that X-Force version, I believe. And so we're in this conundrum of, do you just re-release that X-Force Archangel from the box set, but it's kind of not on the most modern articulation, or do you wait a little longer till it makes sense and do an improved version?
Okay.
So those types of discussions come into play, but we love X-Men, Dwight loves that team, and yeah, we'll have to see.
If we get a Haslab Apocalypse,
Okay.
not quite as big as Giant Man, maybe shrunk down.
Yeah.
If you could throw in a X-Force Archangel as
Maybe,
one of the tiers,
maybe.
then I'd very much appreciate it.
Okay.
Cool. Last thing then, Ryan, anything that we should kind of keep our eyes open for, any particular direction that you think fans should be watching for the coming months?
For the coming months, I'm trying to see. Well, I mean, I think the entertainment slate is, from what's been announced, there's the next Captain America movie we're excited for that.
Yep.
And we'll of course have items, Marvel Legends items for that. I've seen them, they're fun. Stay tuned for that. And then just a lot more comic stuff I think we're seeing with some of the entertainment dates shifting around. It's an opportunity for us to really highlight in the marketing comic books type stuff like this Spider-Man retro wave that's coming out. We've got the Void Build-A-Figure wave, which is up for pre-order now.
Looks
We've got
amazing
it
in
on
the
display
cabinet.
here
Yeah, that is
with
a
Black
Build-A-Figure.
Panther, Vision.
I'm a big fan of big Build-A-Figures.
Okay,
and
that is a big Build-A-Figure.
That ticks the box.
There is a lot of chunky plastic
There is
into
definitely
that.
a lot of it, and it's like
Yeah.
translucent as well, which looks
Yeah.
fantastic. Just come to mind, I'm going to throw one last one at you.
Okay.
Riders, the Riders series,
Yeah.
I was a massive fan of those, and they just kind of stopped. We kind of had a few bikes, and then
Yeah.
it just kind of stopped. We had the Sky Cycle recently with Hawkeye. You could kind of shoehorn into the Riders if
Yeah.
you like. Are we likely to see anything like the Riders come back, or is that kind of a done and done? Basically, our vehicle is something that you guys are still playing around with.
We are.
Okay.
Well, what we called the Riders was, if you go back, if you remember, year one was Ghost Rider, and then Black Widow, and Wolverine, I want to say.
Yep.
So that was an assortment, and they were all kind of similar, and we called it, whatever we called it, the Riders assortment. I don't know that we're going back to an assortment like that, but we will do these one-off items like Hawkeye and Sky Cycle,
Fantastic.
and any other individual one-off item that makes sense to do. It just won't be like a Rider series of 6 items a year, right? Like that. I don't think there's enough characters to really fill that out in the same way. And we're going to flex up and down, I think, on the price point too, because we don't want to just reuse the same motorcycle every single time and have it be whatever it was, $40, $50. If there's something smaller or something bigger that is worth more, then you'll see that way.
Danny Ketch. I'm just putting it out there.
Okay, just
throwing that out there.
So what are your requests today? Were
X-Force Archangel,
X-Force Archangel,
Man Thing, either as a build figure or a deluxe, and
Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
Iron Fist, Danny Ketch. That's a pretty good list.
You could get that all to me in 2024. I'll be a very happy man, Ryan.
Okay, well, keep that list, and we'll see what we can check off next year and in the future.
Brilliant, Ryan. Thank you ever so much.
All right, thanks very
much.